when the most intelligent 99th percentile of every population in the world can communicate without any prohibition and without any impediment, then clearly that expands the knowledge base, the shared knowledge base of the world's most intelligent individuals 100-fold. And eventually I think that world power will be handed over to that very small and very intelligent and very rational group of people who will then usher in a new era of peace and benefit to humanity. The whole thing really began when I was 10, and my dad came home one day with a Tandy 1000 that he picked up at Radio Shack. That's a bit of an antique, isn't it? You know, I was 10, so I was playing some games, you know, such as they were at the time. I started playing Zork and got very involved in that, and I began playing King's Quest, as you probably know, the first graphical-based PC game, and it completely changed the paradigm. Never before had I even dreamed that a CRT could come so alive and be so vibrant, and that, you know, this machine could really alter the user's reality completely top to bottom. And that happened to me. And then in '84 I saw War Games for the first time, and it really opened my eyes up to the possibilities of what these machines could do. You know, just a tiny hint that there was something else out there beyond text-based gaming. So I started war dialing. I had a group of friends that I was hanging out with who were doing the same thing at the time, and we were dialing into phone numbers all over Washington specifically, because we thought that would be the most fun. That would provide us with the most interesting results. We were doing a lot of phone phreaking and red boxing, you know, the successors to the war dialer, breaking bank security codes, and you know, routing police cars erroneously, you know, the fun stuff. I was walking home from school one day, and there were two men from the FCC at my door when I got home, and they asked me, they told me, rather, that they had to come in and inspect my computer to see if there was an FCC sticker inside the case. You know, after our inspection by the FCC, the seven of us got together and signed a pact in blood. I remember that day very, very well, from the beginning of the day, actually. I was walking to school alone, thinking about this recent encounter with the FCC, and it was a cold day. Oh, it was unlike any other cold I'd really ever had. You know, there's the damp cold, where it's misty, but it's like frozen mist in the air almost. And then there's just the straight bone-chilling cold, where it's a dry cold, but it permeates everything. You can't get away from it. And then there's that very particular December in northern Illinois cold.
Okay, and getting back to...
Oh, right, getting back to the story. I talked to my seven friends at lunch, and we all agreed that we were in this together till the end, that we couldn't rat each other out. So that evening in number 6's basement, we sat in a circle around a candle, and we didn't have robes, so we put dark towels on and figured that would suffice. But black robes is really the effect that we were looking for. And we each, with a pin and a fingertip, signed our names in blood, stating that we would not reveal the group's secrets to anyone. You know how in Africa, for example, with antelope herds, the weak member of the group, of the herd, actually is left to die should he not be able to keep up with the rest of the group. This was our attitude. As you know, in the case of Kevin Mitnick, who was caught, arguably the greatest hacker in history, he still sits in prison to this day. Because of the high security level of the prison that he's in, I don't really know what he's encountered. I don't really know what he's experienced. But it's not, I mean, you know what government black ops are like. I mean, it's not out of the question that they'd have us killed. It'll look like an accident, don't get me wrong, but we were all prepared for that. We were willing pretty much to do anything, even die, should it be required. After our inspection by the FCC, my particular group of friends had developed, a manner of communicating appropriate to a completely separated subsect of society. We began to speak in phone dial tones. For example, if you were to ask me, what time is dinner tonight, I would say, beep, beep, and that would be 5:30. I was also at the time a big participant in the Prodigy Service, and it was there that I started. Well, I was ranting one day, to be honest, to be perfectly honest, just ranting about the state of things in general, and the ridiculousness of security laws. And by accident, I had lapsed into writing in code, in actually C++. And I went from plain English, plain hacker English, to expressing myself in the terminology of C++ commands, which in itself was very interesting, but the other posters on the BBS didn't think anything of it. They responded as if what I had written was perfectly normal and in no way out of the ordinary. I had a very similar experience when I was working on my first book. It was socializing for the very intelligent. And doing the same thing one night, I wrote an entire chapter in C++ code. So, I didn't even notice it. I didn't think anything of it. I frankly finished the chapter and went to bed. And when my first book was published, there was a chapter written entirely in C++ code. It was a huge hit among the underground hacker crowd, because finally someone was writing to them in a language they could really understand. It really touched that segment of the population, and frankly endeared me to them. And the fact that they responded so strongly endeared them to me as well. If you ask me, if not C++ specifically, but some programming language will be the language of the future, simply because while all languages are rule-based, programming languages are universally rules-based. So whether you natively speak Spanish or French or Russian or Chinese, if you're writing C++ code, you're writing C++ code. In other words, the boundaries of communication disappear, and everyone is able to communicate similar thoughts and ideas using a common language native to computers, native to artificial intelligence, and therefore flawless intelligence. For example, it's very difficult for a Chinese-speaking person to learn English, and vice versa. But if I were working with a Chinese computer programmer and express my ideas in C++ code, he'd have no problem understanding it. The very nature of human intelligence, by the fact that it's not hardwired, that it's not subject to any external control, is by its very nature irrational and therefore flawed. And in fact, oftentimes, human intelligence is so unreliable that it's just not worth pursuing any further. On the other hand, an artificial intelligence that's controlled by a select group of people who've been able to suppress their emotions to the point that rationality is truly what drives them in every aspect, that is a flawless intelligence because its processes are consistent all the time. Its results are going to maintain consistency across all tests. And as long as what's controlling it is outside and interacts with a minimum of interference, that is a flawless intelligence. Personally, I see most of the adoption of my ideas taking place in the contemporary hacker community, mostly Well, on BBS in an email communication and in some spoken communication as well, because I occasionally, for example, at my last LAN party where we were playing Unreal Tournament 2, a good third of those in attendance never had to code switch all night. They were able to continuously speak in C++ without reverting to English for any expression of any idea, actually. When the day comes that we all have USB inputs or FireWire inputs or something next generation even, I don't know, in actually in our temples, when I can think consistently and clearly in C++ code, I am myself a walking application, a multifaceted computer application. When everyone else does this too, and we all have our USB ports, our USB cables, our extendable USB cables, we can, I can plug into for example, the ATM, and withdraw money by thinking about it. Because I'll be able to communicate with the machine in my code-based language. And that day is coming. I mean, let's face it, that day is coming. So I'm really trying to think outside of the box here. You know, it's not really well known, but Prince is actually one of the very original elite hackers. In fact, much of what's commonly known on the internet as hacker speak, speaking with a mixture of letters and numbers and symbols, actually originates with Prince, and there aren't a lot of people who like to acknowledge that. Especially, I mean, not just the fact that it's Prince, but more for the fact that Prince really turned his back on the hacker community and in fact completely disobeyed the code completely. One of the rules, one of the unwritten rules of being part of this hacker community is that you avoid fame. You avoid recognition in order to remain elusive, in order to remain untouchable, sort of, the power operating behind the scenes.